very much for being
Thank you for
here.
having us.
Yeah,
Yes,
thanks for having us.
This is awesome because we are newbies with scanning, and so we need to learn the things, the stuff and the things. So
Everything that's digital, we need to know those things.
yeah, we do.
It's
This together. So let's get into it. Let's talk about what digital scanning actually is and why it matters and why we because you said something interesting where once upon a time patients used to ask me like, when are we not going to put these alginants in my mouth anymore? And I'm like, never. Let's get on board with it like that. But now that's what we're here, right? So let's talk about that.
Thinking of the times where I had to mix a goopy material and stick it in a patient's mouth and have to really think back why we were doing that. It was usually for some procedure-based reason or a diagnostic reason, right? And so now the ability that I have in my practice to scan a patient, capture a digital record of them that moment that they walk in and do it in little as 2 or 3 minutes, it's a complete game changer for me. For me, digital scanning in the mouth has been such an easier way for me to relay information to my patients about the things that I see in the mouth.
Just on the patient perspective, you know, they actually say, I want to have that treatment just because I don't have to take an impression.
Yeah.
Oh, I told you no.
Right.
I told you no before because I thought you're going to take that goopy impression. I didn't want to. Now they're accepting treatment.
Can you describe the tools? So we're hearing about this scanning ability. A lot of people have never seen this before. What does it look like? And what kind of software do you need or whatever?
So scanners, it's a handheld camera. So it looks sort of like a gun. There's a tip that extends into the patient's mouth, and it uses a set of mirrors and lasers to actually image and reproduce what the patient's oral situation is for whatever the treatment that you need, whether it's just models for diagnostic or even restorative cases, removable appliances. It can really replace a lot of what you're conventionally doing with a traditional PVS impression or alginate impression and reproduce it super accurately. There's a lot of studies out already that are showing that intraoral scanners, digital impressions are more accurate. When we think about, I started off as a lab technician, I typically got a PVS impression and then had to pour it up in stone, and given all of those steps, it's amazing at the very end we were able to make something that fit into the patient's mouth. But now we can completely digitize the patient's situation, and as you alluded to earlier, being able to communicate better. This technology allows us to communicate with the laboratory better, between the dental office and the lab, and certainly with the patient. It's making things more comfortable for the patient. Patients love the aspect of not having to, after a PVS impression, having to pull all the goop and all the rest of the stuff that sticks between their teeth, on their lips. So it's all about patient comfort, convenience, increasing efficiency, and I see a lot of offices introducing what we call like a dental health scan. So hygienists, each time patients come in for a recall, they may scan the upper and lower, and then you can track what changes the patient's teeth have been going through, and being able to see, and assistants getting to show what's going on in the patient's mouth at that time on a screen and getting to move it around.
Yeah.
The patient has been able to see their oral situation in a way they've never been able to see before. And
seeing the patient's reaction to the technology, it's really this incredible thing where it's almost as if the technology is the communications piece that improves the communication with that patient, because they visually can see, you know, whether it's a scan, how we're treating the patient, what's the plan long term. They can see the difference in their treatment after they're being scanned, and then they have the treatment and they improve, and then there's this almost like a puzzle that's solved with technology that I think is really interesting. It's this communications piece that technology is providing for the clinicians to the patient, and I think that is really very interesting.
Situations, starting from the initial appointment. So if you even get a brand new patient, you do for your data collection and before treatment planning, you can scan the patient, lay out your treatment plan, and as Cherie mentioned, be able to show them their models digitally on the screen and point to the teeth and say, this is where you have a problem. You can show cracks, you can show leakage, you can show gingivitis.
It's interesting, you think about not only just the restorative aspect of where scanning plays a role, but think of sleep apnea. Think of the huge area with sleep apnea, and there's appliances that are impacting the lives of people. I mean, really, right?
Right.
And that is, they have to be scanned, right? As all of you can talk about, but Justin, I think that's a big part, especially with dentistry today. The dentists are examining these patients for these disorders. One of the top trainers over at 3Shape, and she said to me last year, ironically at Greater, to me, finally, I showed her the prototype for ScanMate, and she said, finally, no more fingers, finally. And I thought, wow. And so, at the end of the day, we can have these great technologies, but we have to, Tomas, you said something great, and that is, once they're sitting in the chair, a scan is often the first impression, right? So we can improve that. We can improve that first impression in the chair. And I think, yes, we want the efficiency, but a lot of that is that comfort for the patient so they feel more comfortable with the treatment plan.